Welcome back to the season finale of the sandwich series, where today on episode 12 we are exploring the Onigirazu sandwich, which technically from our research in episode 8 isn't a sandwich at all because there's no bread involved, there's no wheat, there's no gluten. It is sort of like a rice sandwich, but I was so intrigued by the origin of this sandwich that I had to dig in. You know we love a good origin story when it comes to sandwiches on this series. So today we are exploring everything Onigirazu. We're gonna learn from a master himself. We're gonna explore some Japanese culture and of course make every single element from scratch. To understand the Onigirazu, first you have to understand the origins of where it came from, which is a Japanese comic. And in Japan, comics are massive. They're called mangas, and it's different than the culture over here. Like, I grew up on, mainly superhero comics. Over in Japan, mangas, there's hundreds of genres. And usually the manga or the comic is the precursor to, the animated series, which they would call anime. So if it gets super popular, then they could turn it into an actual anime. Now, cooking mangas are actually a very popular genre. I think there's over 1,000 of them. And the Onigirazu first appeared in a very popular cooking manga called Cooking Papa in the 1990s. The main character of this comic series is a Japanese salaryman who they call Papa. Now, Papa's actually a fantastic cook. He's a beast in the kitchen, but he keeps that a secret from his employees, from his boss, because he doesn't want them knowing that his wife is not a good cook and that he's actually the one crushing it in the kitchen. So what he does is he tells everyone that his wife is actually a great cook that's preparing all this insane food that he's bringing to work. Now in Japan, onigiri is a very popular snack. It's a rice ball with some stuffing in it wrapped in nori. It's like an easy, take on the go type thing. But in one of the chapters of Cooking Papa, he did almost an easier version of that. He threw together a really quick sandwich where he took some nori, spread on some rice, put in some stuffings, and then chopped it in half like a sandwich, inventing the Onigirazu. Now what I love about this sandwich is that the creator of Cooking Papa, Toshio Yama, he originally saw his wife just throwing together this sandwich for her kids as just like a quick meal. So he saw that, got inspired, and actually put it in the chapter of Cooking Papa, and that's how it was actually created. And it wasn't really that popular during the 90s, but then recently with, the explosion of viral food on Instagram and just beautiful food, this sandwich has become extremely popular in Japan because it just looks so beautiful. I'm new to the Onigirazu, so the first step, of course, is to find one in person and try it out and get a little experience with the sandwich before we make it at home. So I looked up where I could find one in NYC, and there was an article from the New York Times talking about this place in Jackson Heights called 969 NYC Coffee. And apparently they're making a bunch of things, but one of the menu items is the Onigirazu. So I emailed the owner of the place, Mr. Oda, and he said we could come by, film, check out the sandwich, eat some food. But his place, if you see here, I live down in this borough called Brooklyn, down in South Brooklyn over here, and I gotta get way up to Jackson Heights. This is in Queens, that's where the place is at. But I'm actually gonna stop by Sunnyside. My friend Al works for a company called Green Top Farms, and I've been meaning to go by there and check out the situation, check out the kitchen, and then I'm gonna pick Al up and we're gonna head over to Jackson Heights and eat some yummy food.
Thanks for riding with us.
One of my favorite parts about New York is that it's so massive. There's so many boroughs that you can just hop in an underground little portal system and you pop out in a brand new place, like a new dimension that you've probably never seen before.
And it's completely controlled by cell phone, the water and light system.
So you basically are taking a closet and growing how much food a week?
20,000 pounds of microgreens.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Where in Japan are you originally from?
Chiba.
Chiba?
Mazudoshi.
Okay. And where's that?
Mazudoshi Chiba is like a state.
Okay.
Shi is like a city.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matsudoshi. Yeah.
And you see a lot of this traditional snack food there, or no?
Not that much.
Not that much.
Not that much.
Okay. Is this more like in the cities, like in Tokyo?
Yeah,
and,
like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
like
it.
that.
What was your past profession or job?
Professional job, meat shop.
Meat?
Yeah, meat.
Butcher?
Butcher, yeah.
Ah, okay. And how long did you do that?
20 years.
20 years you were a butcher.
Yeah.
But do you like being a butcher more or cooking, food like this more?
Both. I like work.
You like work.
Yeah.
So do people when they come in here, do they take food to go with them, or do they eat it here?
To go.
To go?
To go. They rub it, they go home. They said they easy eat it.
Ah.
Yeah.
So this is the easy eating.
Yeah, morning
food.
time, they go to
Yeah.
Manhattan. They bought it. They call me before. They pick out me.
Oh, so this type of place is just like travel food. Like
Yeah.
they can come into Queens
Yeah.
before they go to Manhattan.
And especially summertime. Summertime, they go to beach before. They call me. A lot of this order to me, and then they pick out me. Yep.
Wow. And you're making everything homemade?
Homemade. Here, everything
Everything here homemade. So it's fresh.
fresh.
There are a lot of layers on this sandwich.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's why it's beautiful coming out.
It's very fresh.
Mhm.
So much. I've never seen so many vegetables packed in one sandwich.
Yeah, they will say good that one. A lot of lady like it.
It's like there's okra, cucumber, spinach, carrot, lettuce,
Yes.
rice, avocado.
That's it.
That's a lot right
Yep.
there.
Mhm.
Wow. That is the most beautiful sandwich I've ever seen.
Show me, please.
What'd you say?
Show me, please.
You want to see? There were a few elements that really stood out about that sandwich. Number one was just the sushi effect. It was like Master Oda in there, just with the craftsmanship and the subtlety of flavors. And number two, it just had this weird combination between sushi and a sandwich that was just unique. When you bite into it, you're kind of confused. You don't know which one it is, and I think that's what makes it special. So it's time to attempt this baby at home and see what we can do. For today's episode, I've teamed up with GTs who make incredible kombucha. It's one of my favorite brands. I've been drinking it for years, and you guys know I am obsessed with kombucha. I have a few videos out there on how to make it at home. I've been making it and drinking it for years, and what I love about GTs is that they're a huge company, but they still have that traditional, that homemade taste, which is very important because a lot of kombucha brands out there, you taste them and they just, I don't know, they feel like they're made in a factory. But GT's is still a family-run company and they're still brewing in small batches. But I know a lot of you are new to kombucha, so I just wanted to give you a quick little kombucha 101 on what to look for if you are a beginner. The first thing is the look. When you pour out a kombucha, don't be scared if you see any floaties in there. This thing is alive. Those are the living cultures and it's completely unfiltered. Number two is the natural effervescence. You want the little bubbles. This is huge. When you pour it out, you want those naturally occurring bubbles. That's effervescence compared to, bigger bubbles, which is forced carbonation, which would not taste as good. Also, when you're drinking kombucha, I find that it's nice to not just down it. I like sipping on it through a mindful process where you can really feel the probiotics, the enzymes, the electrolytes, all of those healing properties going to work on your body. Now the last tip is that I love drinking kombucha, of course, but I also like using it in different elements of my cooking, specifically to replace vinegars because it has such a nice acidic quality and it's just a good way to incorporate more probiotics into your food. So I'm going to show you how to make some traditional style Japanese pickles with using a little GT's kombucha. I feel like for most of us, our introduction into Japanese pickles comes from that little side ginger, that pickled ginger you get with your sushi, but the actual tradition of pickles in Japan runs so deep, and I love it because there's so many variations, there's so many colors, there's so many techniques, whereas here over in the States you have like, one type of pickle. It's kind of boring. Now there are so many different varieties of Japanese pickles that you can make at home, ranging from extremely simple to a little more difficult, a little more time consuming, strenuous. We're gonna keep it on the simple side, and we've got some daikon radish, some ginger, a little bit of cucumber. And my goal was just to slice these up with the intention that we're gonna be piling these into our sandwich and they're still gonna fit. Once you slice up all your veggies, you're gonna add a good bit of salt to them and let them sit for 20 minutes, which is basically removing moisture so then you can replace the moisture with your pickling mixture. So for my pickling mixture, I'm going with some GT's ginger kombucha, which I figured, with all that fresh ginger in there, it's just an added extra flavor. So I'm gonna pour 2 cups of the ginger kombucha into a measuring cup. Then I'm gonna add 1 cup of mirin and about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and just mix that up. I took my daikon radish and packed that into a container and poured over my pickling mixture. And I did the same thing for the sliced ginger as well. So you got double ginger flavor on that pickled ginger. And then I'm just gonna let those sit for about 2 or 3 days and they should be perfect. Now I wanted to try one more pickling technique. So for the cucumbers, what I did was I took some miso paste, a few chunks, and this is some darker, longer aged miso paste. And I poured in some GT's kombucha to that and stirred that up so I had this nice paste. Then what I did was I took my cucumber in a container and I just layered on the cucumber and the miso paste until it was completely covered and just let that sit in the fridge for the same amount of time, about 2 to 3 days. So of course for the Onigirazu, there's not like a strong tradition of what to put in this thing. It's really up to you. You saw Oda, he had, his vegetarian one, he had his crispy chicken, he does a fish one. I wanted to do a vegan one since we haven't done any vegan sandwiches on this series, but I still wanted the crispiness that I saw with the chicken that he had. So I saw a technique on Mary's Test Kitchen, where she was taking tofu and almost turning it into like a meatier substance. So I went with that technique, and what you do is you actually take a medium firm block of tofu and you put it in the freezer. You let that freeze overnight, and then you take that out, you thaw that, and then you'll freeze it again. If you really want the proper texture, you gotta freeze it twice. Then you thaw it out again and you take it out and squeeze out all the moisture between, just find 2 things in your kitchen that will work as a press to squeeze out the moisture. Now you're gonna start breaking up the tofu and you'll see that it's shifted more into a spongy texture, which is gonna be great to mimic the texture of chicken. So now let's work on our crispy coating, and we're not gonna be using a breading for this, we're using a slurry. I'm borrowing some techniques from Chinese cooking where you would see like a General Chow's chicken with that really crispy coating. Well, they actually use a slurry for that, and it's really simple to make, but generally you use an egg in this. So I'm gonna start out with actually making a flax egg, since this is vegan, by just adding 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, 3 tablespoons of water, and just let that sit for 10 minutes. Now you can see after 10 minutes our flax egg has set and it almost looks like the texture of scrambled eggs. So we're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, and then we're gonna start adding in some cornstarch and just mixing that in, and your goal is to get a slurry, and it should be fighting back your whisk a little bit. That's a good sign that you know that you have the perfect consistency. So just keep mixing that in until you get that proper thickness. Now you can just add your tofu nuggets to this and just mix them up until they are completely coated, and then just fill up a pan with some neutral oil and heat it up to about 375 degrees, because once you drop in these little chicken nuggets, they are going to drop the oil down to about 350, which is where you want it, and just fry those away until they get super golden brown. And you can just use some forks if they stick together, which is possible. They might stick a little bit. And then after about 5 minutes of turning them and frying, they should be at their peak golden brown, crispy levels. That's where you can pull them out and then just add your next batch of chicken. If you follow me on Life by Mike G, you saw a little experimentation with this already, but just take a look at that. Is that not chicken right there? The texture is spot on. The freezing technique works. I was actually just thinking that maybe a patty, like a bigger chunk for the final build, would have made a little more sense after seeing Oda do that yesterday, but we'll see what happens. So here's my reference photo for both the chicken sandwich right here and the vegan right here. And one thing I really liked was that he doubled up on some of the layers. It confused me at first, but when he cut into it, it just added to the beauty. I think we've got a rough plan here. So we're gonna take it from the bottom. And of course, this is all up for interpretation in the moment. And I didn't include sauce. I didn't quite know where I wanted to put that just yet. But from the bottom, we're gonna start out with a piece of nori. Then we're gonna top it with some of our sushi rice. Then we're gonna go on with one layer of lettuce. Then we'll hit it with our carrots, our diced carrots. Then we'll top it with some avocado, and we'll go on with the nuggets right on top of that. Potentially a good time for sauce right here. If you want the recipe for this katsu sauce, check out episode 2 of the sandwich series. It's also in the description below. And then we will do some of those pickles, an assortment of pickles. We'll do another layer of lettuce on top of the pickles. And then we'll go back on with the sushi rice, and then we will fold it all up, and we have our sandwich. All right, I did oil this ring, so hopefully this slips off. Oh boy. You know what? I just realized I can cut the tape. That will be a much better move. And just remove the ring. Right. Woohoo! All right, now I have to fold this. I don't know how he did this. Oh boy. So I think I'm gonna have to patch it up a little bit. This is what I'm gonna have to do. Now this is pretty damn ugly on the initial wrap, but the idea is that I can make it look a little nicer once I put it in here. I even have one of these guys. That can help a little bit. Oh yeah. Like a nice sandwich shape. It's mind-blowing how many ingredients you can pack into this thing. And I owe all my confidence to Oda, because I would have never put that many ingredients in unless I saw him really pushing the limits. But you make it look nice, and that is a to-go sandwich right there. Whoa. Looks like a sandwich. Now, what I initially love about this thing is the fact that you can just pack so many ingredients in there, like a sushi roll, and just, you know, comes out all nice, and that's a perfect to-go sandwich. I totally understand what Oda was talking about, where his clients over there, they just take these, they pick them up in the morning, they go to the beach, they go to work. But let's see how the homemade version goes. This is definitely delicious, but I would have to say this might be the first time where I feel like the store-bought version was just edged this a little bit. This doesn't quite compare. I feel like Oda's version, you know, it felt like a really good sushi experience where you just have those delicate flavors working together, and just the refinement and the practice he had. I can't quite get on that level right now, and it makes sense. That's like, you know, Japanese culture. It's just practice and getting it perfect and really nailing like the subtle flavors, and I feel like mine just wasn't subtle enough. But having said that, this is still delicious. That is it for episode 12 and season 1 of the sandwich series. We made it through, and what a journey it has been. It's really been a blast to produce this series, and I feel like just evolve throughout the whole thing, and you guys have helped me a lot with that evolution. So continue to comment in below with ideas. They help me out a lot for this series. You can also contact me at Life by Mike G with you know, a direct response there if you want to talk to me directly about an idea that you have. Thanks to GT's Kombucha for just providing incredible tasting kombucha. I've been drinking this stuff for years. It is really my favorite store-bought kombucha. Keep cooking, friends. Hey guys, thanks again for watching the video, and make sure you give GT's a follow on their YouTube channel if you want to see what they're up to, and if you want more sandwich series, click on one of these videos.